Okay, guys, let's have a talk. It is Sunday, July 12th, and I feel like this isn't getting mentioned enough with the whole discourse about the Iran war and the American empire's general militarism. America's goal is not to win wars. It never has been to win wars, and America's goal is not to win the Iran war. So, I know that's going to upset people that are pro imperialist and pro colonialist on all sides of the political spectrum, but I just want to reason this through out loud to help everybody connect the dots. Okay, number one, the military budget is now $1.5 trillion. I know it's really hard to conceive of what $1 trillion is. Most Americans can't even conceive of what $1 billion is. But to put it into perspective, the total discretionary budget for the year of the entire United States empire is $1.9 trillion. $1.9 trillion is supposed to cover every single thing the federal government does. All of the roads, the schools, the fire departments, all of the public services, everything. So $1.9 trillion minus $1.5 trillion means that the entire US, everything the government is supposed to do here domestically, has to happen on a $400 billion budget. And that includes all of the bloated salaries that are paid out to all of the bureaucrats of all of the branches of government, including giving them the best health care, the best benefits, and for presidents and congressmen and judges, permanent pensions and retirement and health care for life. $400 billion. The rest of the U.S. discretionary budget, which is, I don't know, 1.5 trillion, 1.9 trillion. It is over 3/4. I'm going to say that's 90% of the America's discretionary annual budget now goes to war. It goes to war. But we don't win wars. We haven't won any wars. We lost the Iraq War. We lost the Afghanistan War. We lost the Vietnam War. We lost the Korean War. We lost World War II and we lost World War I. I know people think that America won the world wars. We did not. Russia won World War I and World War II to the tune of 30 million Russian casualties. And immediately after Russia saved our asses both times, the American government started fear mongering over communism and waging all kinds of foul chicanery against Russia and has been for 100 years. Goal's not to win wars, guys. Eisenhower's final address as he left office, anybody can find the whole thing on YouTube and listen to it. Some of you may have already heard the kind of tagline, which was beware of the military industrial complex. He did a whole speech citing his concerns that the American government was starting to manufacture wars to sell weapons instead of manufacturing weapons to fight wars. And he was absolutely right. Now we have this bloated military industrial intelligence surveillance complex. And the bigger it gets, the more money it requires. And most of what it does, we're not even told about. Because remember, there's a thing called the black budget. And not even Congress gets to know what the black budget is. So we're talking about $1.5 trillion is the top line budget that is the number that's actually reported. And the black budget for the unelected powers of Washington and all of the alphabet agencies and the surveillance network that we're told doesn't operate on American soil, and that we're just not told about in general. They've got the black budget. So I don't think it is unfair to extrapolate that basically all but government salaries is going towards the military. Because do you see the American government doing anything for people anywhere? I don't. I don't see it. Do you? I don't see it. There isn't fuck all happening here. We are in a one-sided relationship with an abusive husband. That is what the American government is. This is a non-reciprocal arrangement. This is an arrangement where we as Americans are expected to be slaves to a system that gives us nothing. And recently, just last week, Trump in some press conference was lecturing Americans about how we are required to love this country. You don't have to be born in this country, but you have to love this country. Okay, this is an abusive relationship. And Americans who still think that this is a democracy or don't understand what's going on are basically like adult children of alcoholics at this point. But that was a tangent. So a $1.5 trillion military budget that continues to expand. Every single year with every single president, Republican or Democrat, the military budget still gets bigger and bigger and bigger. We still wage endless wars all over the world. We don't call them wars because then you'd have to get a congressional vote, so they call them other things. And we don't win any of them ever, no matter how bloated the military budget gets. We don't win anything. The goal is not to win. Do you see that? The goal is not to win wars. So that begs the obvious question, then what's the goal? Well, the goal of the American empire is imperialism, and imperialism thrives on war. We have a blood economy, the same way the Roman Empire had a blood economy. This country was founded on genocide. A bunch of people came over here, they killed off the entire native population of the continent, stole all the land, imported a bunch of slaves from Africa to build up a capitalist economy, industrial capitalist economy, basically on the backs of the slave economy. And I don't remember the specific number, but it's something like 76 total days in the history of the United States that we have not been at war. And I don't know if those are even consecutive days. Like for the entire history of this country, we've been waging war with somebody. Why is that? Because capitalist, imperialist economies rely on the exploitation of labor, resources, and economies from everybody else, especially the global south. See, people call third world countries. It's actually a really classist term. There's nothing third world about them. These countries are extremely rich. And that is why the Western Empire can't keep their grubby hands off of them. These countries are rich in resources. They're rich in culture. They're often rich in social cohesion until the empire goes in and fucks it all up. It makes them poor because the wealth of the United States and the British Empire and all of the kind of predominantly white Western countries that have been doing imperialism for the last several hundred years all comes from robbing the global south. And in order to continue robbing the global south, you have to have a military that keeps everybody under your boot. That is what the American military budget is for. The Iran war has nothing to do with winning anything. I can't believe that people don't see straight through this stupid 2003 George Bush weapons of mass destruction grift. Every time you turn on mainstream media, these idiots are peddling this lie that Iran can't have nuclear weapons, and that's what this is really all about. And the number of people that are actually buying into it is pretty alarming. I mean, granted, they're old. The baby boomers will just believe anything they're told. And I'm afraid that as long as that generation is still alive and still the biggest voting bloc in this country, we're going to be hostage to them and their profound narcissistic self-delusion for fucking ever. That is another tangent. So yeah, Iran doesn't have any weapons of mass destruction. Iran does not have a nuclear program. Iran has never had a nuclear program. Iran was obeying all of the tenets of the JCPOA that they signed with Obama. It was proven by multiple outside agencies that they were. Not that that should even matter, because who the hell is the American government to tell anybody who gets to have nukes? I mean, America is a rogue state, and they're managed by an even worse rogue state, Israel, which is also a nuclear power. And Israel is a nuclear power because they stole all the nuclear tech from the American government. And the Americans let them get away with it, just like they let Israel get away with sinking the USS Liberty, just like they let Israel get away with assassinating John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy and doing 9/11. Now, were there other factions involved in these atrocities? Of course there were. There was collaboration from the American empire as well, but these were all Israeli-backed events. Most people that have been paying attention at any level in the last couple of years, at least, know that by now. So there's no weapons of mass destruction in Iran, and it is well known that there is no way you can win a war in Iran through an air force. There is no air war that you can win in Iran. And also, the American troops can't win a ground war. All this $1.5 trillion we're wasting on the military is going towards weapons that were designed to fight wars from 50 years ago. That's why Iran is beating the pants off of the American-Israel axis right now with $10,000 drones, because America has more money than it has sense when it comes to doing its imperialism. And Iran has seen us coming for 50 years. I mean, the American government overthrew Mohammad Mossadegh in, 1953. They had a thriving socialist economy. They had a 100% literacy rate. I mean, it's the same story as Libya. It's the same story as Chile. It's the same story as Argentina. Every time the American government goes in and starts messing with some other country, they turn it into a shit show. And they do it on purpose, because if your goal is domination, then you want the countries you're dominating to be a mess. You see that? So none of the military production is even happening above ground in Iran. They have deep underground bases that they built with missile silos that they can deploy without anybody even having to poke their head up above the soil. So the reason the American Air Force is continuing to bomb the shit out of Iran isn't because they think they can win a war with Iran. The goal is to ruin the country. The goal is to immiserate the civilian population. They didn't just bomb one little girl's school. They have bombed hundreds of schools. You're not hearing that on the news. They've bombed hundreds of schools, dozens of universities. They bombed an entire soccer stadium that was full of kids that were working like pre-professional sports. They do the exact same things that Israel does. There is no meaningful or functional difference between how the American military operates and how the Israeli military operates, or the level of war crimes that they will commit. Don't get that shit twisted. The United States has never been the good guys. Not ever at one time in our history. And I know that threatens the sense of identity for a lot of people, but at some point, everybody just has to wake up and smell the coffee. You can't win an air war in Iran. The goal is to decimate Iran and to fracture it and to break the social cohesion. It's the exact same strategy that the British Empire used everywhere. It was their stated goal when they went into India. India had a deep, ancient, rich culture based in Vedic scripture, Vedic religion, Vedic wisdom, and the Brits went in, and their entire strategy was divide and conquer, because they knew it was the only way that they could break India. And that is what the United States is trying to do with Iran. The American empire was not prepared for the level of social cohesion that the Iranians have. And I don't think they were expecting Iranians to rally after wiping out their Khamenei and Khamenei's administration. And they have. And they've become even more united. And they have even more resolve. And what does the American empire want to do? They want to punish that. Think of any narcissistic parent and their scapegoat child. Think of any narcissist ever, okay? When a narcissist's self-identity is threatened, they do something called narcissistic rage. It is perceived as an injury, a narcissistic injury to their sense of identity, to their sense of absolute control and superiority. And they rage. And narcissistic rage is particularly insidious because it is punishing, it is virile, it is vindictive, and it motivates them to want to crush whatever they think is the source of the injury for their disobedience. And that is what the American empire is trying to do to Iran right now. It's not about winning, it's about punishing. It's about trying to make the Iranians suffer. And there is a hope that making the Iranians suffer will also cause the Iranians to rise up and overthrow the government, because this is how the US has done color revolutions and coups all over the world since the beginning of ever, but definitely since World War II. I mean, I don't know exactly when it started, but 100% this has been the American Empire's mandate around the world since World War II. Now look at the political system. It's completely captured by the Epstein class. Every single politician that holds elected office in this country, except for Thomas Massie, is completely captured by AIPAC. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar haven't been taking Israel money. That's plausible. So that could be a little bit of an exaggeration. But for sure, almost all of the government and all of the corporate liaisons to government in Silicon Valley, the surveillance state, the AI, tech bros, all of that, they're all compromised. Most of the corporate heads are compromised. Most of the mainstream media anchors are compromised. They're all part of this Zionist, parasitic, Epstein class machine that doesn't have any interest in serving the collective good of the United States whatsoever. They're only in this for their own gain and for the advancement of the Zionist Greater Reich. That's like all this is. So they don't care that they're hollowing out the American empire from the inside. Okay? Anybody that falls for the idea that there is anybody in the American government right now or in the presidential administration that is trying to win the Iran war is severely deluding themselves based on a deep-seated need to believe that America is still better than everywhere else and that America is still the good guys and that there's at least somebody in your government that cares about you. I'm sorry to be the person to smash all of those delusions, but none of those things are true. So I am not even going to attempt to offer solutions to that in this video. I'm sort of out of answers myself. Since 2016, with every single election, 2016, 2020, 2024, I thought that by now people must finally be fed up. They must finally be fed up enough to support third parties, to form grassroots coalitions, to start doing real work. And it seems to have all gone the opposite direction. So I don't know. I mean, it's a little encouraging that the anti-Zionist sentiment seems to be bleeding across party lines, that at least everybody under 50 pretty much seems to understand that all genocide is wrong. Genocide is never justified. And just for the record, for the sake of the YouTube censors and whatever other ghouls are scraping the internet to see who's saying wrong think on their media, I would be equally opposed to genocide if this were being done by any other group of people. I don't differentiate. Not only do I not differentiate between religions or ethnicities, the reason for that is because my moral code is not for sale. It's not negotiable. It doesn't change depending on what group of people we're talking about. That's the same reason I reject all American exceptionalism. I'm going to say that again. I reject the entire notion of American exceptionalism on its face. We're not uniquely special. We're not better than anybody else in the world. Our lives are not more valuable. Our economy is not more important. There is nothing that we are entitled to from any other nation anywhere in the world. Period. We're not entitled to dictate to any other nation. We're not entitled to tell them who can have what weapons, what they can do with their economies, what their people can do. The only legitimacy our military would ever have is if it stays within our own fucking borders. Every time the American military leaves the American border, it is an illegal invader in another person's country. That's it. And I don't know. It's frustrating because even among like more progressive type thinking people, a lot of them still hold on to the notion of American exceptionalism pretty hard. Um, they want better domestic policy here. They want less harmful foreign policy elsewhere. But when you talk to them long enough, it becomes pretty clear that they are still in favor of imperialism. I was just talking to one guy the other day that was pretty allied as far as the rights of the Palestinians and the Iranians and so forth. But then he started doing all this panicking about Russia and China and talking about how Trump dismantling USAID was bad because it outed all the CIA operatives. And I was like, what? Fuck the CIA operatives. Fuck agents of empire operating in other people's country for the purpose of destruction and immiseration of other nations. I don't care if they're outed. I don't care if they're killed. I don't. So, either the United States is going to figure out how to get along with the rest of the world as a country among countries, or everybody that stays here is going to go down with the ship. And I think it's laudable that there are many people in progressive circles and on the left, even on the right, really, that still want to like figure out how to fight the good fight, and that believe that there's a point to doing that and putting energy into that. But, every realistic time projection that I can see and that I've heard from others is that we're a good 10 to 15 years out from any meaningful systemic change here in this country. And I am not remotely interested in waiting for that to happen at all. I'm sorry. I've got a life to live. I've suffered under the American empire for over half of my life. And at this point, after wasting 20 years in activism, I'm interested in living for me. That's the truth. I want to see things get better. Altruistically, I care about things getting better. Um, but I'm not going to be putting my time or energy into it other than, maybe occasionally jumping on here and doing a video about it or writing a blog. But that's really only when there's a topic that isn't getting talked about enough. And I guess honestly that does come up kind of often because I don't know why people seem to like miss these angles. It's like everywhere I see the Iran war getting discussed, people are just not dismantling the disingenuous framing about this war enough. You know, any talk of this war as if the goal is to win is entirely disingenuous. Any talk of this war, like giving reality to the argument that it's about Iran's nuclear program is disingenuous. Whether or not people are deliberately lying to or whether they're just deluded, I don't know. But it's disingenuous because it's a false framing. None of that stuff is real. And I think that for the types of coalitions that are needed to really affect real systemic change in a country as large as the United States to even exist, people would first have to be on the same page and be able to accurately identify the real causes and conditions of the problems. And well, that doesn't seem to be happening, or at least not happening fast enough. So I don't know. This is life at the end of the empire. Choose your position accordingly. Don't forget to remember that we still live in a beautiful world. Hug your pets. Love your kids. Go get in the sun. Drink water. Do yoga. And maybe humanity will surprise us all. All right. Thanks for listening. Bye.